All right, I'm going to call the Justice Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by member Martin, a second by member Chung. Any addition or corrections to those minutes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is appearance by members of the public. Do we have anyone to speak?
We do. We've had two requests to speak this evening. The first of our public speakers is Mr. Zach Gittrich. If you'd like to come up. And he will have 5 minutes to speak. Someone want to put the minutes on the...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the most honorable and esteemed county board members. I will go ahead and pass this out. Those are just the current stats for the population of the jail. There's been an additional 23 inmates who have contracted COVID-19 since last month. As of the 26th of April, only 3 inmates are positive. In the same time period, only 2 staff members contracted the disease, and as of the 26th of April, only 1 staff member was positive. And again, I only mention this because otherwise, you'd never hear anything about it. It has come to my attention that inmates are openly sharing all of your contact information. Apparently, Sheriff Sandage made the decision to provide every inmate with your names, phone numbers, and emails. And not just the Democrats, all of you. Honestly, it makes me a little concerned for all your safety. In case you didn't know, there are murderers, rapists, violent gang members, pedophiles in that jail. What if that creepy piano dude called up and one of your daughters or granddaughters answered the phone? So I thought it was important to bring this to your attention. Again, here's the proof of it. It was also claimed at the previous meeting that the statements I made regarding solitary confinement were false. I have confirmed with at least 4 individuals who are either incarcerated or work in the jail that for months and months the norm has been 18 to 23 hours a day solitary in one cell. Most recently it was 18 hours a day for most inmates. However, one source says this may have ended for most inmates sometime last week. New arrivals are quarantined for 10 days, and correct me if I'm wrong on the exact amount of days for quarantine. Which from what I've heard means 23-hour-a-day lockdown. It seems like we could maybe shorten that length if we used at least rapid testing on new arrivals. But that would be incumbent on the board to make sure that those funds are available and that that's a priority. And finally, I just want to continue the work Mr. Spano started by reviewing the active lawsuits against the jail. And this one is Rayford v. Sandage and others. Levante Rayford has a medical diagnosis of epilepsy. Due to this condition in June 2019, Levante had valid prescriptions for medication for the seizure disorder. Levante needed to take this seizure medications twice daily, once in the morning and once in the evening. On or about June 26, 2019, plaintiff was taken into custody and booked into the McLean County Jail. Approximately 3 months prior to June 26, 2019, there was a McLean County inmate social history report completed for Levante by the jail. This report documented that Levante was epileptic and had medical problems. Upon being booked into the McLean County Jail, defendant Schroeder confiscated multiple medications from Levante and plaintiff, including Levante's seizure medication. Plaintiff informed defendant Schroeder that Levante needed to take the seizure medication twice daily, once in the evening and once in the morning. Plaintiff further told this jail employee that Levante had not yet taken his evening dose of the seizure medication. Upon information and belief, defendant Schroeder did not contact Levante's physician to verify that Levante needed to take his seizure medication. Levante was provided his evening dosage of his seizure medication. Plaintiff contacted the McLean County Jail on June 27, 2019, and spoke with a currently unknown nurse. Plaintiff informed this nurse again that Levante needed to take his seizure medication. The nurse informed plaintiff that there was no verification from any medical professional that Levante needed to take seizure medication, and absent that order, Levante would not be provided the medication by jail staff. Plaintiffs immediately called the office of Levante's physician and informed them of the situation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. on or about June 27, 2019, a member of Levante's physician's staff contacted the McLean County Jail to ensure Levante was being provided his seizure medication. The jail received a fax from Levante's physician, which contained a list of medication prescribed to Levante. This fax, which includes the doctor's name, identified the medications and times Levante needed to take each medication. At approximately 10:45 a.m. on June 27, 2019, jail employees received the prescription and medication orders for Levante's physician. Levante was not provided the seizure medication. Levante suffered a seizure at approximately 1:30. Levante was not taken to the hospital or any other medical facility following this seizure. Levante was not provided his seizure medication after this seizure. Levante, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Sharon Bays, and she can approach the table if she'd like. Ms. Bays, you will have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, and hello to you all, and thank you for your time. I'm here to discuss some concerns I've had with the jail. I apologize that my son Jason Roof was recently in jail, entering on March 28th, but in holding for 3 days, then in quarantine for 10 days. April 11th, he woke up after 2 days out of quarantine with pain in the elbow area, swollen and red with pustule-looking sore. He requested to see a nurse. Later on the day, the same guard my son had spoken to earlier about the request had seen my son's elbow was rapidly getting worse, and then the guard went again and told the nurse that my son needed to be seen. The nurse refused the guard for my son to be taken to her. The next day, at April 12th, my son requested again to be seen, and at 2:25, the guard informed my son he was not being seen. Jason was worried by the way his arm was feeling and the red going up his arm. He knew he had contracted MRSA. He had seen it firsthand from my husband, who had contracted MRSA from an injection given by a doctor. My husband had to be admitted to the hospital for 2 days and for a week. MRSA is highly contagious, infectious disease, and it rapidly grows. Jason has also informed me that there were others that had MRSA. They told him that they had the same looking site as he and showed them the scars that they were left with. Finally, on April 16th, after daily requests and phone calls being made to the jail, a nurse gave my son 2 antibiotics, a Z-Pak and Dioxin, I believe. At that time, they marked my son's arm to watch to see if the infection traveled. Jason called a couple days later telling me he was sick to his stomach and had problems with his bowels. Worried, as my son has many allergies to medicine, I called asking to speak to a nurse. Her name was Susan. I told her my concerns. She denied that my son had MRSA. I asked if my son had seen a doctor or if any cultures had even been taken, when I already knew they had not. So I then asked her, how do you know what my son has? I asked Susan if she actually seen Jason. She informed me she had seen him walking around and talking and that she thought he was okay. I asked if she realized how contagious MRSA is, and antibiotics wasn't all that just cures MRSA. It takes a special a soap called benzocaine to wash, and actually the entire jail needed to be scrubbed. And I also asked Susan if she was aware that it takes a minute opening of the skin to contract it, and there was no response. I asked her if she knew the other inmates were being subject to the disease, as well as employees, and well as taking it home to their families. She told me she would go see my son at 3 o'clock, maybe at 3:10 or 3:15, and there was an attitude in her voice. She changed Jason's antibiotic actually that day to Bactrim. In a couple days, my son informed me his stomach was better, but the infection was traveling back up his arm and the pain was getting worse. He had requested again to see the nurse, but he was informed that they were no longer allowed to see him again as he was being transferred out. Not only did they say that they hadn't performed a test, but they refused to even take a test. And I truly hope I'm wrong, that it wasn't a case of MRSA, but I hope he didn't get sent to IDOC with it. But all this concern would have been alleviated had they merely just performed a test. I'm also bothered by a Detective Hinckley coming to my home on April 19th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was an intense moment, thinking that maybe something was severely wrong and happened to my son. I'm not sure what his motive was, but he was asking me to come to the police station that morning to talk about some kind of recording, or that I recorded something. But I told him I'd done nothing wrong and I had nothing to say, and I did not go to the police station. And I thank you for your time.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item 4A, Don Everhart, McLean County Clerk. We have one item for action. It's item 4A, 1A. Request approval of renewal of intergovernmental agreement between the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services and McLean County Circuit Clerk. And can I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by Member Schaefer, a second by Member Chung. Mr. Everhart, would you like to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an agreement between, again, it's a renewal of an agreement, existing agreement, for a grant renewal. It's a federal grant that pays the state as well as the clerks who participate to process support orders through this grant. Now, this office would be required to do those without those payments, but it does assist in helping with our revenue. And I would ask that we continue to participate with this grant.
Okay, does any member have any questions of the circuit clerk? All right, seeing none, we will be voting on item 4A, 1A. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the next items are for information. We have the monthly statistical report. Mr. Everhart, would you like to say anything about that?
Well, as I said before, those reports are a lot more involved this time, or this year for 2022. I don't know if you've taken time to look through those reports. I know they're rather monotonous, but the only thing I would add to this is an additional work for the clerk's office. These are lengthy reports. And on that note, as we progress through the year, you will see a drop in court cases. I remember State's Attorney, Mr. Don Knapp, commenting on this earlier this year. We will see a drop in a number of cases filed because of this amended Supreme Court rules and record-keeping manual procedures, and what's called case hierarchies, where cases will evolve into other cases of a higher level. For example, we'll see a reduction in the number of traffic cases filed. We won't see a reduction in the number of defendants, I'm sure, but at least the number of traffic cases filed, because it used to be prior to 2022, every citation issued at that arrest, for example, traffic would go into individual case numbers for each citation. Now in 2022, each arrest will end up with one case, and all those it will issue into that case. And so it may be all traffic, or it may be a major offense, major traffic, and you have some minor, all those minors are going to the major, or it may be higher charges will come from that arrest, maybe a misdemeanor or a felony, then all those will fall over into that felony or misdemeanor. So again, you might see lower case numbers, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have lower number of defendants.
Does any member have any questions of the circuit clerk about the monthly statistical reports? All right, first quarter statistical reports, is there anything you'd like to add or say about those?
No, but it's a lot of work.
Thank you for all that work.
All right.
Does any member have any question? All right, seeing none other, do you have anything else you want to add here at this point, I guess?
I do not, thank you, though.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Next item on the agenda is item 4B, Ron Lewis, Public Defender. We have no items for action. We do have an item for information, the Public Defender's caseload report. Mr. Lewis, would you like to address that?
Nothing really with the statistics other than from what the circuit clerk just explained, our numbers are going to be showing some differences as well, and those are starting to take place, and we're watching those to see how those impact as we go throughout the year.
Does any member have any questions of our public defender? All right, seeing none, we have other. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 4C, Molly Evans, Children's Advocacy Center Director. We have two items for action. The first item for action is item 4C1A, request approval of cooperative agreement between 2022 award recipient and the National Children's Alliance. And can I have a motion to approve? Have a motion by member Martin, a second by member Chung. Ms. Evans, would you like to address that?
Sure. This is a new grant that we wrote for this year with the National Children's Alliance. It's a program improvement grant focusing specifically on forensic interviewing. So this grant will cover the cost of us bringing in a consulting group to put on a 3-day training for our forensic interviewers. We can have up to 24 participants. In this training, we will be able to provide this training to Normal Police Department has 4 trained forensic interviewers. Bloomington PD has 2, and then we have 3 on staff, including myself. So we will then open it up to some other forensic interviewers in Central Illinois. So this is a really specialized training that our interviewers would have never had the opportunity to have without this grant.
Any member have any questions? Member Chung?
Thank you. This isn't really a question. I guess I think I've said this before, Ms. Evans. I always want to applaud the sort of work you do with your organization, with your department, just to find these grants. I was going through this packet. I was really interested in this. This is something I've never heard of before, and
Yeah.
and I guess you're saying that it's something brand new, and just excited to see that here. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing your.
Any other member have any questions? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and vote on item 4C1A. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is item 4C1B, request approval of an agreement for professional services between Modell Consulting Group LLC and the McLean County Children's Advocacy Center. And can I have a motion to approve? Motion by member Schaefer, a second by member Beer. Would you like to address that, Ms. Evans?
So this is just the contract with the consulting group that will be coming in August to provide this training for our interviewers, and it will be paid in full by the grant.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on item 4C1B. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, we have one item here for information. Monthly statistics and general report. Ms. Evans, would you want to say anything about that?
I don't have anything further to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? And finally, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't believe so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item. 4D, all right. Next item on the agenda is item 4D, John Sandich, McLean County Sheriff. We have no items for action. We do have items for information. First item is monthly statistical report. Sheriff Sandich, would you like to say anything about that?
Sorry about that. We're still in possession of 27 inmates that should be in the Department of Corrections, but that's about half of what we were carrying, so we are making some progress in that area.
Does any member have any questions of the sheriff? Okay, next item is item 4B. This is an item for information, position classification request. Sheriff Sandich, would you like to say anything about that?
That is to bring up the salary of one of our employees who's been added some duties.
Okay. Does any member have any questions? Member Chung?
Thank you. I'm just clarifying that this is what is it, what do we call it? Item for information because it's going to be approved in finance, is that why?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right, last item there is other. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I've got a few things. We've had some issues in the jail. A lot of these are being perpetuated by Ms. Chung. On October 18th, in an email, she stated the jail was punishing people for minor offenses and that the majority of people in the jail were there for nonviolent offenses. Not true. If she knew anything about the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, she would know that our jail is being used to the best ability to keep people off the streets that are a danger to the public. On November 3rd, she wrote an inmate stating, "I'm very concerned with the lack of transparency in the jail." There is no lack of transparency. We release what we can. We are held to standards through Illinois Department of Corrections, some things we can't release. On November 4th, she released an email stating the jail was built under the guise of mental health. Ms. Chung's never toured our jail. She does not know the mental health services we provide, nor the improvements we've made. On February 25th, Ms. Chung, did you tell an inmate's family member that the sheriff is not seeking re-election, so he does whatever he wants, and also state that the new sheriff has some family members that are Democrat, so things would be changing at the jail? On March 3rd, Ms. Chung contacted an attorney on behalf of an inmate to solicit a lawsuit against the county. This inmate is a violent convicted felon with what law enforcement considers white supremacist tattoos and beliefs. On March 18th, Ms. Chung, did you give guidance to inmates' families about how to get legal paperwork into the jail? How can you give guidance when you've never been in our jail? On April 7th, did you tell inmates' family members that I was lying and only trying to discredit your political campaign? And on April 22nd, I sent you an email at 1:55 p.m. in which I advised you that your name was coming up a lot, jail phone calls, and that your phone number was being shared amongst inmates, and that was a safety concern. By 3:30 p.m., you had already contacted inmates' families and advised them that we were listening to their phone calls and not to mention your name. Did you also relay to an inmate's family member that we had placed an inmate in solitary confinement for giving information to you? An inmate who was not in solitary confinement, but was in disciplinary segregation for instigating a fight with an inmate who was practicing his Ramadan rituals. It's also an inmate that was found in possession of hooch in his cell. Do you agree with trying to interfere with someone's religious beliefs or possessing illegal alcohol in a corrections facility? Or the fact that the family member on behalf of this inmate has sent a FOIA request to see if someone is an informant in the facility, therefore to harass that person? Ms. Chung, I suggest if you want to know more about the jail, you come tour the jail. Otherwise, your half-truths and the way you're going about is causing conflict in the facility and is making it unsafe for not only staff but inmates. Thank you.
want to say anything? All right. Item on the agenda is item 4E, Kathy Yoder, McLean County Coroner. We have no items for, she's not here. So she's not here, so she's not going to answer any questions anyway. But if you have any questions of the coroner, you can direct them to Cassie, right? All right, all right. Next item on the agenda, you told me she wasn't here. I don't know. I mean, item 4F, Don Knapp, McLean County State's Attorney. We have no items for action. We do have his caseload and forfeiture fund reports. Mr. Knapp, is there anything you'd like to say about those?
Yeah, as Mr. Lewis said, the numbers are gonna be hard to compare, and we've talked about this with the change in the record on manual keeping. But if you take a look, some may say, well, look how far felony and misdemeanors are down. If you add up the felony and misdemeanors at this time of year in 2021, it comes to 706. When you add in the DV, which we talked about, domestic violence being its own category with everything, we're at 770. So I think our numbers, our prosecutions are actually up. It's just we're keeping track of them a little bit differently. I don't know until the end of the year, like Don said, and like Mr. Lewis said, we'll have a great apples to apples comparison, but I wouldn't read a lot of the comparison between 2021 and 2022. It's just going to be tough to compare for apples to apples, but prosecutions are actually up a little bit. So that's it.
Does any member have any questions? All right, seeing none other, do you have anything else you want to add?
The committee knows I communicated with them earlier. We're still having, as the industry is having, staffing issues. And I relayed some more in-depth information to all of the committee. If you haven't got it yet, you should get it anytime now. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that I can.
Are you wanting to answer those here, or?
I can answer those here. Yeah.
Does any member have any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Knapp. All right, next item on the agenda is item 4G. Standing in for Mike Donovan is Dennis McGuire, Court Services Director. We have one item here for action, item 4G1A, request approval of a modification of contract for problem-solving court agreement and Center for Youth and Family Solutions. And can I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by member Martin, a second by member Chung. Mr. McGuire, would you like to address those?
The change in the contract is just moving funds from one line item to another line item to line up with the auditor's request.
Any member have any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on item 4G1A. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, we have one item here for information, Court Services, Adult Juvenile Division Statistics. Mr. McGuire, is there anything you'd like to say about those?
No additions, but I could answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, next item's other. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 4H1A. It's Will Scanlon Circuit Court. Item 4H1A, request approval of administrative office of the Illinois Courts Lease Agreement for office space. And can I have a motion to approve? Motion by member Martin, second by member Chung. Mr. Scanlon, would you like to address that?
This is a lease that's existed since 1997 between the county and the Administrative Office, Illinois Courts, for space for the arbitration program. It does not entail the payment of any rent or anything other than keep the lights and the heat on and clean the space. They're leasing what is commonly referred to as Suite 400B of the Health Department, which is the space they've been in since 1997. And it's a 5-year lease, which is standard for the past 25 years.
Any member have any questions? Member Schaefer?
It's not a question, it's just a comment, is that it is not the health department, it is the 200 West Front building.
Well, that is
So,
true.
I would just like to make that clarification, so that people know that it's not just the health department in that building.
That's true.
All right, thank you. All right, we're voting on item 4H1A. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item is an item for information, courtroom AV project update. Mr. Scanlon, is there anything you'd like to add?
I was here in February, and I believe I spoke of it in March. We have a grant from the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts to provide funding to improve the audiovisual and presentation equipment in each of the 12 courtrooms. Through McLean County Information Services or Information Technologies, we put out a RFP for this services, and we received 0 bids, which was a first for me and a first for them, they say. So advice of Mr. Spanos, we have received 4 quotes from various electrical contractors in the area, and we're going to proceed with a responsible quote. But I would be here with a request for proposals approval, but for the first time in 25 years, we didn't get any bids. We suspect because all the counties in the surrounding area are competing for the same services to put in the same systems, and there is a deadline for these services, and they're essentially overworked. So, which is an odd thing to have. Got too much work to get to us. So,
Any questions, any comments? All right, seeing none, there's other, anything else you'd like to say?
no, I would echo the comments of Mr. Knapp and Mr. Everhart before him. With the change in the manual on record keeping and a comparison of criminal and traffic case filings between 2022 going forward and the previous years is going to be very difficult just because of the change in the manner in which we keep the records. So there can be some interpretation, particularly among felony cases and DUI cases, but beyond those 2 case types, it's going to be difficult.
Member Chung, I saw you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is actually just back to the thing about the AV. I'm just
Yes.
looking here at your memo, Mr. Scanlon, and it just kind of like, it just said that you came here on May 1st to talk about, but it must have been March 1st, I'm thinking.
I'm sorry.
No,
it
it's
was-
okay. I
it
just
was-
wanted to
It
get the
was,
timeline.
it was
in my-
March 1st. There's
Yes.
a typo in my memo.
No, thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions for Will Scanlon? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Next item on the agenda is Cassie Taylor, item 4I, Cassie Taylor, County Administrator. We have no items for action. Anything you want to say?
Thank you, Chairman. I do have some things I'd like to present for information this evening. First, I'd like to introduce our new METCOM director. As you all know, Tony Cannon retired, and our committee for the METCOM board completed a series of interviews for the process, and we came up with a candidate we thought would be a great addition to our department head team for McLean County. I don't know if you'd like her to come up to the table or if she'd just like to stand to be recognized. Rhonda Flagel is our new METCOM director as of Monday. She assumed her duties on Monday, May 2nd. I would also like to add, or at least mention, that in addition to the position reclassification request that was in your packet under Sheriff John Sandage, we will also have a classification request coming from the CAC. And unfortunately, we weren't able to have that as part of your packet as information. It was received after the posting of the Justice Committee. But both of those will be heard tomorrow night at our Finance Committee meeting. And lastly, we will be calling for a stand-up for the Justice Committee before the full board meeting this month. Thanks to Chairman Erickson, we did recognize that there was an oversight in our rules for the Justice Committee. And when we have a facilities request for improvements to the Law and Justice Center, those are supposed to be recommendations coming from Justice and then going to the Property Committee. And so there is a selected bid from the coroner's carpet. That was approved in our 2022 budget to put new carpeting in the coroner's office. And so that will be heard at property on Thursday night, and then we will ask for stand-up. So it's a little backwards from the usual process, but moving forward, we will address that in the right order. That's it.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 5, other business and communication. Anybody? All right, seeing none. Next item on the agenda, I'm told I need to do these separately. Item 6A, bills and transfers.
No transfers.
No transfers. All right. Bills. We have bills in the amount of $838,948.83. I have a letter here from the county auditor saying that she has reviewed them and that they're in accordance with county policy. And can I have a motion to approve? Motion by member Beer, second by member Coates. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then the last item was, we have an invoice for the Children's Advocacy Center, page 90.
Correct.
So, yeah.
91.
91, yeah, that's right. Do we need to get a motion on that?
Mhm.
Can I get a motion to approve this invoice? And a motion by member Bear, a second by member Coates. Any comments or questions about that? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting on item 6B. Of item 6B, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? I think we're done. We are adjourned. Thank you.